Welcome back to another episode of the VeeFam Sessions. My name is Mr. Messer, but you can call me Rob, and I am so pumped to be joined today by VeeFriend, former D1 basketball player and longtime beloved member of the VeeFam, is KT Thompson. KT, thank you so much for being here. This is a long time coming, at least for me. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's definitely a long time coming. I appreciate the outreach, and I'm pumped to be here and talk to you, Rob. I'm gonna call you Rob. I'm not gonna call you Mr. Messer, but I'm gonna call you Rob.
Please, you're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to. It's so fun. Like I have a lot of different ambitions with this, but part of what I want to do, part of my ambition is to really get the chapter one, I guess now we're calling it alpha age, right? Like people painting the picture from their perspective of what the early days were like. And you've been there, it was OG. Yep. So you've been on my list for a long time, and you're so nice to talk to and such a warm spirit. But before we get into VeeFriends, I always like to get the comic book number one for people. So if you can, in like 1 to 2 minutes, give us like the cliff notes on who KT is before you ever even heard what a VeeFriend is.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you already mentioned, former D1 athlete, played basketball at Cal State Northridge. Basically, I love all things sports, music. I've started to tap into some photography. I was kind of like volunteered, or like we'd like to say voluntold. One night, we were having like this big event at our church, and we needed someone to take photos, and I just happened to have my sister-in-law's actual like camera with me, and they're like, all right, go take the photos to get up there. And I was just like, okay. And I kind of always have been a little bit passionate about photography, like growing up. I asked for cameras and turntables. Like I ultimately wanted to be a DJ, and mom was like, listen, we're gonna have to like guide this to a actual like profession, something that you really could do in life. And like, look at it, photographers and DJs, some of the most flourishing professions. I think I was like, I knew the alpha before it actually happened.
You were on it. Yes,
I was on it. Every Christmas, turntables was like on the top of the list. And they're like, second thing, what do you want? And I was just like, come on. But yeah, just passionate about, like I said, sports. I love WNBA basketball. I love college basketball. I'm not really into too much of the men's side of things, but I do respect all the athletes that are out there. I know we've got playoffs going on right now. My dad's like, hey, let's watch some basketball tonight. I was like, yeah, the Aces are playing tonight. I will be watching some basketball for sure. So yeah, I kinesiology major in college. Am I using that degree at this point? No. So it's something though that I knew that it was something I could potentially do. I wanted to do athletic training as well. So, but being that I was an athlete, I was not afforded the opportunity to go that route, given the requirements of having to go off-site to do observation at an actual school. So that kind of was like, you're not going to be able to do that. But being injury prone, I was like, I just want to know how all this works and how I can help rehab someone back. So there's always been like, I guess, this sense of like wanting to help people get back to the best versions of themselves. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Yeah. And Loyal Lobster's my character. Loyalty is really big to me. I'm kind of loyal to a fault sometimes, but yeah, it's made me who I am. Yeah. I was a walk-on college athlete.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what's the story within the story there? So
in high school, I was a little cocky. I'm not gonna lie. I was a cocky son of a gun. I was a freshman that came on to the scene at my high school, and it was a group of us actually that came in together. And once I got there, I was like, all right, like, I'm trying to get a starting spot. Like, I'm not trying to come off the bench. Like, what do I need to do? And in practice, I just did what I felt I needed to do and ended up taking a senior's starting spot. And so freshman taking a senior spot was not like something you really heard of at the school that I went to. And it kind of like, I don't want to say set me up for like, just like I got the swag walking around campus, but everyone started to know like, hey, the girls team is looking like pretty good, and they got a freshman that's a starter. So it was just like one of those things where progressed through high school, and I didn't know I was getting recruited for school, like for colleges. There was, long story short, our coach was kind of going through her own stuff personally, and was getting kind of in the mix of, I would say, like high school kids like success, and my recruiting letters were being withheld from me. This whole time I'm just like, dang, this high on life, and now it's like junior, senior year, and I'm like, no one's calling, nothing's really going off. And then my senior year, I was like kind of just like in a little bit of like a crappy place, because the coach did leave, but then the JV coach became the JV and the varsity coach, and he basically came in and said, you know, what was going on is not going to be happening anymore. I'm going to bring my kids up. They're going to be the captains. They're going to do it. They know my style. Even though like we were the big dogs on campus, it was kind of like the roles like kind of flipped. So it was just like all my friends had left to transfer, because this was like at the time where kids were transferring to schools to be like, hey, we're going to take over at this school. Let's do what we need to do to make it to a championship. But my parents were like, listen, when you're committed to a team, that's where you stay. Like, this is where we started. And I appreciate them for instilling like those values. That's why I said loyalty is like so big to me. So that's why that character, like Mint Day, I really tried to go for Loyal Lobster, because it was just like, that was my character. I knew right away, just because of all the like values that have been put into me. Like, when you say your word is your bond, like when you say you're going to do something, you need to follow through with it. You don't just get to run when things get hard. Like, you need to stick it through. So that's why we stuck it through. But like I said, I didn't know I was getting recruited. And it wasn't until like my couple like weeks left into our season, the school I actually ended up going to, Cal State Northridge, was asking like, hey, like we've been sending letters, like what's going on? And I was like, I haven't gotten anything from you guys. Like, I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't know where I'm going to school at the, you know, starting at the next semester. Like, I'm shook. Like, life is about to like hit your girl real hard. And they're like, hey, well, we're going to be at the All-Star game. Like, maybe we'll see what happens like after the All-Star game. So played in my senior All-Star game, had the like best game of my career, like went off. And the coaches were like, after the game, like, hey, you know, there's this thing called the walk-on. And I had never heard of a walk-on. You just heard, hey, you get recruited, you go for 4 years, you get a scholarship. That's how it works. And I was today years old when I learned about a walk-on, and they're like, yeah, no. So basically, essentially, you'd be on the team, but we're going to have like, you essentially have to pay your schooling, and then gradually, if we are able to, you know, offer you a scholarship, that would be our goal. So got to school, walked on, ended up making the team. My freshman year, after one of our conference games, they pulled my parents aside and were like, hey, we want to surprise. So my nickname is Train. We want to surprise Train and like let her know like she's earned her scholarship. So I earned my scholarship, and yeah, the rest was kind of history after that. So that's why I said it's that loyalty, just sticking kind of things through. But like, I needed to go through that process, I believe, to be humbled. I'm like a hedgehog.
Right.
And just like be able to like take in like, we're gonna have to work at this next level for what you want. And I wouldn't take it back for anything in the world, because it made me who I am today.
I love that. And yeah, I bet I'm so grateful that I was able to play on, you know, organized high school team sports, you know, and just had really special experiences throughout the years. And I'm going to really, not to push my kids, but, you know, encourage strongly for them to have.
It definitely gives you some like character building too. Like,
of course, yeah.
Like I started playing basketball when I was 5, and at that time there was no girls leagues. It was only boys. So I played with boys basically until like they figured it out and they started some girl club teams. And I wasn't until probably like 10 or 11. So I like when I got to the girls side, they're like, you're too rough. And it was like, no such thing. Like, so it was just like, you just learn a lot of like responsibility, accountability. Like we were held accountable even for teammates when their parents were not able to get them on time to practice. Like, everyone on the baseline, we're running suicides, we're running 17s, we're running whatever the coach says. So it's just like, it's such good character building. And like you said, not forcing or, you know, but like, hey, let's try some things and just kind of see what fits best.
I love that. So somewhere along the line, well, let me go this way. When was the first time you remember hearing the name Gary V?
I actually got to tell Gary this story at the first VeeCon. So it was like pandemic. I had no clue. So like I'm a newbie to Gary. Like, so all of this stuff everyone's talking about, like, Gary, I've known you for, 10, 15 years. I'm like, oh, well, I'm an OG in VeeFriends, but I'm like a newbie. When they're like, drop a 1 in the chat if you're a newbie, I'd be dropping a 1 if I'm being honest. But it was right during the pandemic. Literally, I told him this. I was like, man, the algorithm was algorithming that day on Instagram. And I just came across a piece of his content and was like, are you in your 30s and you just don't think you have it together? And I was like, bruh, that is me. And at this time, we had just found out we were actually, our positions were being let go in our department at our jobs. I was just like, yo. And I was living in a different city. Like, I was not where I'm currently located now. And it was just like, I'm going to have to move back home. Like, goodness, like the reality started hitting in because I didn't have any family where I was. And it was like uncertainty in the world. We didn't know what was about to happen, like with this whole pandemic. So yeah, I literally just remember sitting there scrolling and I was like, I went down like a rabbit hole and I was like, this guy's got some good stuff. Like, okay, I've never heard of this guy, but he seems to like, he's talking to me, I feel like directly. And then I just hit follow and the rest was history from there. And then it was like, hey, join Discord. And I was like, what is a Discord? I didn't know what Discord was, and VeeFriends was the first Discord I joined, and I was in there like before the mint was even like being talked about. It was just like, hey, get in here, buy some crypto, get a wallet. So like literally VeeFriends is like the project, the community that helped me set up a wallet, make sure I wrote down my seed phrase. Don't type this anywhere because it could go into space and it could get lost. And I was reading all those articles that were in the Discord on like how to get started and safety measures. And I was just like, okay, I wrote my little seed phrase down and it said, make sure you write it down multiple times. So I wrote it out multiple times. I put it in different places. I've shared with only like my closest friend where it is in case something does happen to me. But yeah, like that where it was like right in the smack dab like middle of the pandemic, and it was actually like not the middle, it was like March because we had just got the news like in October we were going to be like dismantled from the company. So yeah.
So you were in right away, and what like people that had been following Gary since like Wine Library TV days, a lot of social equity and trust was built up, and like they were ready to open their wallets for anything. But for someone as new as you, like I'm curious, like what was there a particular 1-2 things that you could point to that you could think back on, like so that like propelled you to like I'm in?
Yeah, so like one, just like I need some friends. It's cool to talk to people. I was living by myself, so it was the first time I had like fully lived by myself. So it was just like, this is cool. I could pass the time talking to some people online, but it was mainly just like the content that he had, like that I had came across. I was like, seems like a pretty positive dude. Like, I don't know what could go like really that wrong at this point. Like, it's worth the shot. And then when it was the whole like announcement of what this was going to be, I was like, cool. Could be great. Like business, I'm down to meet people. Like it's always good to connect. You never know who you're going to meet, what room you're going to be in with a person, like, right? So I was just like, all right, let me just see what it's about. Like the worst, I don't like what I'm hearing and I just don't do anything with the information.
Right.
It wasn't like I will say it was the excitement of the Discord was fun. At that point, I had a Twitter when I was in college. I had not been on that thing, so I dusted off the keys, found the password, and they were like, yo, you got to get on Twitter. And I was like, I have Twitter. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, you got to be active. Like, and I was like, all right. So, got active on Twitter, got active in the Discord. Yeah. And it was just that, like, just the camaraderie and the genuine niceness of people. Like, I know like people are always afraid of being duped on the internet, but like, it just seemed like everyone was so positive, and it was just like at a time that was so like we don't know what's about to happen. It was just a very positive like reinforcement in life, just to know like, okay, there's some people out here that are also going through this global pandemic, but they're in high spirits. Okay, let's just be the positivity that this world needs, even if it is in this small bubble, but maybe it can like radiate out, to the outermost parts of the world. I don't know, because we are so global. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm in California. I'm talking to people that are in Australia. Like, I'm talking to people that are, in New York. What are the chances we would have ever met? Zero. And I've met some of the closest people I'm to this day, I've met through the VeeFriends community.
Yeah, that's number one. I agree with everything you just said. But number two, it's funny. Like, I don't think it comes up enough. Like how COVID is a real variable here. Like, everyone was so accustomed to doing Zooms and doing the Clubhouse thing, and it's just interesting to see a world does this NFT boom happen? Does VeeFriends happen?
That's what I'm saying. It was just like
COVID didn't happen.
Yeah, because we were all stuck in the house. So the internet was our outlet, right? I know specifically where I was living at the time. So I was up in the Sacramento area. They were lenient compared to when I came back to LA. I'm talking about our gym was still open, so I still had contact outside, but when I got here, it was you have to sign up for a gym time. And I was like, I just came from a place where we could just walk in, out, we weren't really social distancing. Yeah, so it was just so
God, I haven't
being
heard that
back,
in so long.
being Blay, it was just so it was even more I dove in after I got back to LA, because I was just we can't go outside. They were it was we were in jail, but we were free. It was just the weirdest thing.
Right.
So yeah, and I also and it was crazy. I also remember the first VeeFriends meetup I went to. It was right after they kind of lifted some things, and I just remember going. I was being an athlete. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. So I'm always gonna be pretty early to an event because I want to find parking. I want to make sure I'm not stressed finding the area. I need to scope out the scene. So I get there and they're oh, how can we help you? And I was oh yeah, I'm here, and I can't remember what the girl's name was. I haven't seen her actually involved since after the first VeeCon. So, but she had organized this whole meetup in Marina Del Rey. We get there, and it wasn't until I said the statement that I realized how unique of an opportunity this is, because the girl looked at me basically blink twice if you need help, because I was yeah, I'm meeting these online people that I've been talking to for many months, and this is our first meetup. We're super excited. There's these things called NFTs, and she was looking at me girl, bring it down, because I was so animated, and I was just yeah, I'm so excited. Am I the first one? She's yes, you are the first person that's talked about any of this.
That's so funny.
So let me see what I can do. And she was yes, it's 25 of you guys that are meeting. And I was whoa, that's amazing. And so I didn't know how many people were showing up, but we show up, we have a good meal, we introduce ourselves, and that was my first interaction. We all went around, said what characters we got and all that stuff. So it was this moment though where I realized this is not a normal way that people, one, interact with each other on a daily basis, but then two, we all are aligned with our values and not all values, but the general idea of what we want to push forward. So it was such a beautiful moment that we had.
That's amazing. And this is before VeeCon.
Yeah, this was before VeeCon.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was I don't even remember I have to go back and look, because I know someone posted pictures. It's probably documented in the Discord if we look, to be honest, because I know people were starting drop all that kind of stuff. And it was still I was I don't even know how to introduce myself. That was my first I need to introduce myself by my Discord name, because no one's gonna know. At this time, no one's saying no one's doxxed. There were people hey,
no one was doxxed in those days.
No, so it was just I just remember the first time I actually posted a picture of myself, and it was just it was received so well, and I was dude, why didn't I just do this sooner? It really wasn't that deep, but it felt it was just a secret society at one point, because people were you're into NFTs? All right, let's head to the Discord.
Yeah.
It was just a weird thing to say. So yeah, it was a fun moment. I just to sit and just take it in. I just remember too, I was sitting at the almost the head of the table, and it was just cool to look down and you just see a just line of just VeeFriends from all different walks of life, just having a good time. eating some good food. And I don't know, it was just, that's when I knew VeeCon 1 was going to be like sensory overload, because it was already so much excitement from that one interaction. We had to be like, I don't think we were too far away from the first VeeCon, but we were super excited. And I knew I wasn't able to meet up. I know the people met up more times, but I wasn't able to meet up every single time. But to be a part of like that first meetup, it was a great experience.
Super cool. The pre VeeCon 1 meetup.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that often. So I want to go to VeeCon 1, but before, let's go to May 2021. What did you ultimately get?
Okay, so my mint day story, I've told this a couple of times. Essentially, I'm going to give you like the short version, because I feel like we've got a lot to talk about. So essentially, I went in and I had a list. I'm like, okay, I looked at I knew what characters I wanted. Loyal Lobster was my number 1. Decisive Duck was my number 2. Energetic Electric Eel was my number 3. So those are like my characters I wanted to go for. By the time I got through Gas Wars with the Ducks auction, none of those characters were available. So now I'm like scrambling, like, okay, what else? I was like, okay, I'm at this point in life, and I was like, okay, I'm looking, and I was like, sufficient shrimp. I love shrimp. That's like, it's good. I'm not trying to eat the VeeFriend, but I love shrimp. And I'm at this point where I need to know, like, I'm enough. So I'm sufficient. Like, I'm going with this one. So I'm going in and I'm like, what is going on? Nothing. And it never tells me like I've minted or anything. So I'm like, this is a scam. Like, they've taken gas money from me. And this was at the time when gas wars were like, yes. So I'm like pissed, because now it's like, now I'm not getting no NFT.
Could have been a couple $100.
Yeah. I'm not getting NFT and you're wasting my time. I'm out of here. Like, so I got off of the website and I was like, I need to just take a lap, like, whatever. So it wasn't until they like said, hey, you need to make sure your like account, like, you can go into the website and make sure your account is all like set up. And I was just like, okay, let me just make sure. And lo and behold, I go in and boom, it says like items you own, and there is a sufficient shrimp in my wallet. And I was like, wait, what? And I remember going into the Discord, it's like, guys, I'm a holder and I didn't even know it. I have a sufficient shrimp. And everyone's like, yo, congratulations. And I was like, this is amazing. So then I was like, one's not enough. If I'm going to go to this conference, I want to be able to potentially take someone with me. So I was like, all right. I remember it because, so back in the day, the VeeFriends used to have a birth date on the metadata. So whatever day you actually minted it, that's the birth date.
Yeah.
So I was like,
that.
all right, yeah. So when they did the update, they took that away. But I know I have it for my second one was I did a very rare brilliant barb. So the reason why I went with that, my mom's name is Barbara, and I think she's the most brilliant person. And I was like, let me get this. And I actually minted it like 2 hours before my niece was born. So it's a special one. And wow. So like I made sure I screenshotted the birth date, because it does have the actual birth date that my niece. So that one like holds like a special place in my heart because of like the significance of the timing of it. So yeah, and I was sitting there waiting for, so this, Coinbase, I'm waiting for Coinbase to move, like I can transfer my funds, and I was like, please hurry up, because this is at the time where, so it was May 27th, 2021. Like there's not much VeeFriends like super left at this point, right. Even though like, 'cause, it was we had issues on the actual they were supposed to, and then we go back in, but then it was a slow burn pretty much until everything minted out.
It was 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I'm just like, please, because this is like one of the characters like I resonate with that's left. And I'm not gonna lie, I almost did mint a blobfish just for shigs, but I was like, nah, I can't do it. I cannot do it. But yeah, so I minted a core sufficient shrimp and then a very rare brilliant barb. So those are my two that I'm rocking with. At some point, I do want to acquire a loyal lobster. There have been a couple of times where I'm close to it, and Gary's he's swept the floor before, and I was like, no, my friends I were like, hey, there's a lobster out there, it's like, it's not at the floor, but it's it's close. I was like, I gotta move some things around if I really want to do that. And yeah, so one day there will be a loyal lobster in my wallet. I already know it's like an end goal for sure.
I have a feeling that you're going to be around long enough for that to come
Listen,
to fruition.
me and VeeFriends go together at this point. Like they can't get rid of me. I'm stuck with them. They're stuck with me, and it's the way it's gonna be.
That's just the way it is.
It is.
VeeCon 22. You already got a little taste of meetup, but for most people, it was their first time IRL. What's your handle? Screen name,
Yep.
all the things. Talk to me about your VeeCon 1 experience in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah, so it was great because, like I said, I wanted to buy 2 of the NFTs because I wanted to potentially take someone with me, and I ended up taking one of my best friends with me. She's into crypto, but not on the NFT side of things. So I was like, hey, you want to go to Minneapolis? She's like, bro, what's in Minneapolis? And I was like, this super conference, it's gonna be great. Pack your bags and we're going. So she was like, yeah, I'm down. So we got on our plane from LA and we got to Minnesota, and we were like, yo, this is great. So I was like, I don't want to like Uber in. I have a weird thing about Ubers anyway. Our parents growing up told us not to get into cars with strangers, and now we're paying to get into them. So I was like, absolutely not. Let's rough it. We're gonna take city transit. So I was like, let's do this. So we got our little city pass for the weekend, hopped on, and it was so nice to like see the city that we took in the ride. Yeah, and I ended up actually waiting for one of the projects that I had got into. I had met a lot of good people like outside of VeeFriends. We just kind of like connected. So he also won a ticket from Gary because I kept tagging. I was like, day 1 of me asking Gary to hook up my boy Jake with a ticket to VeeCon, and sure enough, like he got a DMs like, hey, Gary's picked you to, and I was like, bro, you're going? And he's like, okay, I need to get funds now to get a plane ticket. And I was like, wait, you had me doing all this and you didn't have, So yeah, so he scrambled, got his funds together, got his his rooming situation. But we waited for him because it was his first time actually like traveling a distance like that solo. So I told my homegirl, I was like, hey, we gotta like wait for my boy because he's like, he doesn't know anyone and he's kind of shy. He already told me, he's like, I know I seem like outgoing in Discord, but I'm a very shy person IRL. And I was like, no worries, bro. I got you. We'll wait for you at the airport and then we'll take the transit into the city. We waited for him and it was like so surreal because he was like my first like person I've met like outside of the group that I already met, and I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't know what he looked like. We hadn't exchanged like that type of information. Like we barely exchanged phone numbers because I told him, I was like, hey, just in case we lose like service in Discord, I don't know, it could go down, like are you cool exchanging phone numbers? And he's like, yeah, not a problem. But I still didn't know what he looked like. And then I just kind of seen like this lost puppy dog look. And I was like, Jake? And he was like, Train? And so we like did this like big hug. And my friend's like looking like, you don't know him? And I was like, I know him online, but I've never met him in person. Like, I was like, I should have had you record this. Like, that would have been like a good, thing. So we get into the city and boom, hailstorm.
I remember.
My best friend lives in Hawaii. She's from Hawaii. Never has seen hail before. So we're already starting this like very iconic. She's like, new city, never seen this type of weather. This is crazy. So she's out there. I was like, girl, come inside. Like this is coming down kind of hard. And she's like, no, I need to get video of this to send back home. And I was like, okay, do you? So we're there. We then go to we get our hotel situated. We head over immediately to try to get in line for the Gary sitch. Totally underestimated that, and I was like, can we go back to the hotel because like I'm ready to just relax. But met people, but I just remember as I'm trying to get in to the actual venue, I saw Jeremy. And I was like, Jeremy. And then I was like, it's Train. And he's like, oh my gosh, what's up, Train? And I was like, can you help us get in? And he was like, hold on. And then Gary. So it was a frenzy because Gary was walking right by us as well. So like that's when I felt like,
Stampede.
Like in those movies where everything kind of just like stops and you just like lock in. Yeah. That's what this moment felt like. It was just like I didn't hear anything. And it wasn't that I was starstruck. It was just like the aura. Like, there was just this sense of like, yes, I am here, but not in like a, I'm here, like, get out the way. It was a very welcoming, but it felt like a breeze came through. It was very like, whoa, that's the guy. And I had to tell my friend, like, that's Carrie. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, she didn't really know like fully what was going on.
Yeah.
She was just there for the vibes. And then Jeremy did get us in, so we got to, the line had like looped around, but we got to, because of the connection. You know, it does pay to have connections, and this was obviously before Jeremy was a part of the team or anything. But he got my friends, was it called Friends Fest? No, that was it was like the opening day,
Field Day, I think.
Field Day. Or was that the second year Field Day? I feel like it was like Friends Fest. It was something, but it was that day one, day zero.
Yeah.
As they were calling it, whatever it was. But he got that started, and then I just remember seeing like a guy that I had been doing spaces with. I was like co-hosting spaces with him for that, for Dapper Dinos, the first LP project that they collabed with, and we had been running spaces like every week for a couple of months, and I had never met him. We had talked obviously every week, not just in spaces, but I just remember I was like, hey, does anyone know where Baki is? And sure enough, someone knew where he was, and they were like, he's right here. And I just remember yelling at the top of my lungs, Baki! And he turned around, and he was like, Train? And I was like, bro! And like, we just like run to each other, give each other this big hug. It was like all like hugs, vibes. Everyone was just like meeting everyone for the first time. You know, I did have a mask on just to like make sure people were comfortable. But then at one point, it was just like, I'll risk it for you guys. Like, I just took that mask off and was just ready to go. But that was like that first experience of like just seeing everyone. It was just very dope just to like finally put like faces to the names, put voices, because not everyone was comfortable at that time on spaces, like going up on stage. And so it was like, I did not expect that voice. I did not know you were that tall. Wow. But yeah, it was a great experience. And then I saw Russ had popped up. The rapper had stopped by because he was having a show at that building right across. I think it was called like not the observatory. It was some building that was right next door, but he had a show. And I just remember he was having a show because I'm in the Russ Discord, because, you know, at this point I'm fluent in Discord. And so
why not?
I always ask like, hey, are you going to be at VeeCon? Like, because I know I saw content with him and Gary before. So I was like,
yeah, Gary's trapped.
And Gary always talks about Russ and his music. And I'm like, yo, you coming to VeeCon? I know you got a show the next, like, the day before we start. Please say you're going to be a surprise. And, you know, those things slowly got debunked that he wasn't going to be musical guest, because we knew who the musical guests were going to be. But I was like, I wonder if he's going to pop by. And sure enough, he had popped by. And I said to my best friend, I was like, hey, you want to go to the Russ concert tonight? And so we literally just went on StubHub and got standing room tickets and had a great night. We didn't go to the Steve Aoki, and we ended up going to Russ. So yeah, so that kicked off. And yeah, the next day, that merch line, you remember limited merch?
Oh, of course.
So I would myself.
Were you in the Stampede?
I got trampled. Katie and I. Teacher, 96.
Yeah, break that down.
Didn't know that was her until like about a year and a half later, because I was actually going through some of like the footage and things that I was sent because of the madness. And then I remember just like we had a conversation. I remember getting up early to go get in line. And then it didn't matter how early you got there, because the way that they let people just, I mean, I know I benefited from, I did get there early, but I wasn't like in the first like 50 people. I was for sure I was in the first like 75 people. But the way that they let us in, I got right to the front of a door, because they did not care how, once they scanned you in, they were like, it's a free-for-all at this point. And I just remember there was a guy behind us that literally took the door, pulled it open. Katie got slammed. He then pushed me, like mushed me, and you know, I'm not the smallest girl. He hits me in the head, and I'm just like, yo, what is, like, this is not the VeeFriends way. Like, what is going on? End up getting in, and my one of my guy friends, he was with me, because he was like, I'll go with you. I don't want you like out in the streets that early, like by yourself. And I was like, I appreciate that, Jay. And so I was like, I'm gonna just like you book it one way, I'll book it another, and like we'll meet when we get to the floor, because we had, you know, we looked at the map, we knew exactly where we needed to go.
Right.
Finally made it down the stairs and wasn't too far into the line, but then there were, you know, some people that were kind of merging in with us like we were on the freeway. And I remember the first VeeFriends employee I met was Andy Prez. So I asked him, I was like, hey, Andy, is it okay if we get a pic? And he was like, sure, what's your name? And I was like, at the time I was going by, so I only recently started going by KT. Like, Train is my nickname, so when I first started, everyone was calling me Train. But now I go by KT. Just, I don't know, I feel like it's a more mature, and you know, it's still my initials. But yeah, so I met him, I told him my name was Train, and we took a selfie, and I got back in line, and I did secure that hoodie that I wanted. And yeah, it wasn't the best foot to start, but I was very proud that Gary addressed it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they have not done a limited supply of that type of item. I know it's still, things are limited, but to put a number on something and people know, you know, it just didn't sit right. And, you know, I'm glad he addressed it, and we were able to just shake it off and keep our VeeCon going.
Yeah. Now people get virtually trampled and whatnot.
Exactly.
And booted out of the way.
Yes.
Yeah, that was wild, and it's so funny because it's just one of the things that people like think about when they think back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, it could have easily we could have easily taken that and had it turn into something bigger that affected the whole weekend in a negative way. But obviously, that wasn't possible with all the vibes and everything. So, you know, year 2, year 3 in Indy, just from your perspective, like, what's something that pops out as something like that they up-leveled, or something that you really enjoyed?
The slide. Listen, I'm a big kid, so you put a slide and some knapsacks down there. Listen, I wish I wanted to go down head first. I asked them, and they're like, for safety, we need you to just go this way. Right now. And I'm like, okay, I'll be back later in the week. But yeah, the slide was dope. As you can see, I'm a big hat person, so the lid station was obviously something I was super pumped for. I actually was the first customer at the lid station, so that was fun. And then yeah, I think too, it was just like more of the activations. It was just cool to just be able to like have a space to kind of just walk around. So funny thing, Dom, so I don't believe he went year 1, but he went year 2. And I just remember him seeing me, and he kept telling me, KT, slow down, stop running, enjoy your time. And I was just like, you know, because I was like year 1, you know, I felt like I missed some things because, you know, it was our first like real partying together. So there were a lot of late nights, a lot of, you know, adult beverages were consumed. And there were nights where we can't talk about that, just stays. You know, it's like Vegas. Oh no, I remember. But yeah, there's just certain pictures that we just don't want out there, and certain areas where I'm like, holy moly. Like Minneapolis, though, there were some, I don't know if you heard, but there were some shootings that happened while we were there.
I vaguely
and we
remember being in
definitely came across someone that was involved. So it was just like, holy moly. So it was nice to be somewhere where it did feel a lot safer in Indy. And it was just like, I don't know, I felt like I was like, you know, kind of how they alluded, like the first year everyone's the like freshman, and then now was like, okay, we know what to expect. But I appreciated Dom giving me that like, slow down, you know, like take your time. And then what I did also love was that field day. I truly enjoyed just having that time to just first day, just chill with the homies. Because I think you get so engulfed in a lot of the breakouts to where sometimes what you want to see is not maybe something one of your friends wants to see, and they want to go to a different room. So it was just nice to be able to just like hang for a day.
Totally.
Yeah, it was a vibe. And I also caught the Busta Rhymes cork at the concert when he popped the rosé bottle. Yep, I caught it.
That's such a cool
I still have it. I feel like I do need to like store it probably in not like a Ziploc bag, but it's in a Ziploc bag. But yeah, it was a vibe for sure.
All right, I gotta throw this one out there now and not save it. It's more of a rapid fire question for later. Year 1, Wyclef. or year two Busta?
Okay.
What's the better show?
Okay, I feel like I shouldn't answer this because I was not at Wyclef. Once they said TLC was not there, your girl bounced. I was pissed.
Really?
I
Even
was
though
so
Gary
pissed.
texted, he was like, "Get here now."
I was already gone. We were at another event. I was so upset that I missed it. So by default, I feel like I have to go with Busta because I was there for Busta. But yeah, I was so pumped for TLC. Like I bought I don't know if you know, they had like the little NFT thing. It was I think it was called Of One, or it was One Of. It's some project, but I bought into that and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Now we're gonna see TLC, and then what happened. So
Canceled. First
yeah,
night.
but I was there for Miguel, and I love Miguel, and I thought it just took me back to when I've seen Miguel a couple of times, so it was just a vibe just to see Miguel also. But yeah, I wish I would have saw Wyclef, but if you ask me out of all of them, you already know the answer is T-Pain, because that's my guy.
That was a good one. I
That's my
feel like
guy.
I didn't see Miguel, but I've seen every other VeeCon performance, and they were like everyone crushed.
Yeah, I
Everyone.
totally agree. Yeah, I saw videos of Wyclef.
Like
And
I
you know
was,
where else I wasn't? I wasn't at Jordan Sparks. I wasn't.
got it.
I was
Yeah,
so
that was
I was so beat. Yeah, I was so beat when we were in Indy, and I just was like, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna be an adult here and just call it and just stay in the room. And I actually went to we had like a family dinner. So a couple of guys that I had met, through other projects were also at VeeCon. So we went and just had a good family dinner, and then, said our goodbyes, and I went back to my room. I contemplated going, and I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. This is the adult thing to do. Pack, get ready for my flight in the morning, and not be out in these Indianapolis streets.
yes, very mature mule thing of you to do.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, so many cool little experiences all in there. As we move to 2024, we've entered like this. There's all different names for eras now, but like this Fanatics Live, Whatnot era. And you said you weren't the biggest, you weren't into the cards so much. Now that we've gotten a top scrum, you have. But like, what's your, I guess, perspective? Someone that was here since day zero with those kind of dynamics and those OG. Now we're more kind of collector focused, a collectible focus, but it's still a place where like the community lives and you can still feel those vibes. I'm just curious, having lived in both worlds now, and you mentioned before we started recording how you're getting whatnotted more often than you'd like.
Man, that's,
I'm just
you
curious.
gotta coin that whatnotted, yeah, because
I'm curious your take, what's transpired here.
I've mentioned this before. I think the beauty of VeeFriends is that you don't have to be into everything to fit in. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. I don't fit into the pens. I don't fit, into the cards fully compared to some other people within the community, but I fit into the caps. I do like the Friends caps. I like the socks. I like shirts. I like hoodies. So I feel like there's, a little bit of something for everyone if you just like look, and I just think that's going to keep growing. I like the shoes. I actually do need them. I need them to drop some more Reeboks. Like mine are like, I'm talking like I've rolling louded with my accountable anteater shoes because they're so comfy.
Yeah, they are.
Surprising year one, because I'm not into the mosh. Like I don't get into the pits. Like I'm more of like I'm an observant oyster from the outside. And I like what I like. But yeah, I made it through 2 Rolling Louds with them. But now we need another colorway. And I believe me and Katie Stretch, because I know there's so many Katies in the community, but Stretch, we were actually on the timeline and she was asking like, hey, what do you guys think about this type of Reebok collab? Like, and I was like, yo, I could see this, and I want like a white on blue, like some type of white on blue, like kind of drop happen. But yeah, I think there's the collectibles are a great avenue. Like these little guys.
Yeah, I love those
like
guys.
My niece, like every time she comes over, like she wants to look and play with these. She's opened minis with me. I posted a video of us doing minis. Like she'll be 4 at the end of the month, so she doesn't totally understand everything, but little do they know, they're going to be VeeFriend out, like gear, everything. Like I got Squishmallows being whatnotted, but I get them when they're on the flash. So I find a balance.
It was a good deal. Those were good deals. I saw that one.
So I've got my nephew, the astronaut. I got my niece, the kiwi. I keep missing the hedgehog because I don't know which one they're going to gravitate to. So I want to have all four. And it's like, when they put the babies down and they crawl, pick which one you want. And I just hope they don't both go for the same thing, because I'm going to just say, you're going to have to wait till Uncle Gary flashes them again. And then we'll get you one. But yeah, I think it's a great tool to be able to just to be able to connect with, my niece and my nephew even. They don't know it, but they're going to love VeeFriends. And they have a book. They have the Meet in the Middle book that's signed by Gary. I had him at VeeCon 3 sign it and put it to them. So that's theirs to collect. And then we also have one to actually read together. So I'm excited for just, the future of what there is to come, because I know we're just like, we're only scratching the surface. And I think that's like the crazy part about all of this.
And on the shoe thing, Gary, a little piece of alpha I picked up when Gary was on last week here. We were talking about Andy, and he said Andy was really pushing. Andy's a big shoe guy, and he's pushing him to do another. So it sounded like just the way he was talking about it, like in his brain, like there have been talks and meetings or whatever.
I love it.
So it's got to be coming, because those were a huge hit.
Yeah. Oh man, it was the
sticker
I got
too.
What is it?
Doing the sticker, it was wild.
That was like, I think that was just like the sticker paid for the shoe, depending on the sticker that you got to. Like it was crazy. Like I even got so I ended up ordering two separate, because I have I've been through some things with the sports. So the feet are a little flat, and I'm just like, sometimes depending on the cut, so I ended up buying two pairs. I needed the bigger pair, which I figured, and I ended up gifting the other pair to my best friend. So she rocks them, and she's like, I've gotten so many compliments on these shoes. Like, what are they again? And I was like, it's on the side of it. It says VeeFriends. So if you ever forget, just look down. So she gets compliments, she said, all the time, and people are asking, like, where can I buy those? She's like, oh, they're limited. And I was like, oh, don't do that. You didn't even know what they were, but you're flashing around that they're limited. Okay.
You gotta flex. Come on.
Yeah.
So fun. So we we're very proud of our community here. It was a buzzword in 21, 22, but now we kind of really feel it, and I'm grateful to be in this one. But what does that word even mean to you? The word community.
Oh man, like you said, I've heard the word just thrown around, but I really do feel that this community, this VeeFriends community, it's family. That's essentially what I break it down to. The way that we welcome in people, the way that we ride for people, it's kind of scary how we are not blood related. Some people might be, but it feels like I've known people for decades, and it's kind of scary. Like I talked to my best friend about it, and I say, I told her about tops, and she was like, yo, that's a big deal. And I was like, no, I'm telling you. And I tried to get her to do the raffle. And so today, when we were working out this morning, I was like, yo, remember those cards I told you about that I tried to tell you to, go into that raffle? And she's like, yeah, what, are they doing good? And I was like, yeah, I could sell, my boxes, and I'd make a good little chunk of change. She's like, dang, why didn't I listen to you? And I was like, I tried to tell you, but listen, in your own time, you can, you do what you want to do.
Top 26.
Exactly. Gary did confirm, because I kept asking on the timeline, when Loyal Lobster, and he said 2026. Oh. So that is a confirmed character that he.
All right.
I bookmarked it too. I was like, I'm gonna have to come back if this doesn't happen, Gary. Don't play with your girl's emotions. But yeah, ultimately, community, it's family at the end of the day, and specifically for this community, I just feel like that's what it embodies. I know, like I said, it's been loosely thrown around, as I don't want to say a cop out for some things, but I used to always get I feel like roasted when I would say I'm here for the community, but it's like, no, I really ultimately I am at this point here for the community because of the connections and the people that I've met. It's unmatched to literally I've been rugged from communities, and I don't think that's what family would do to each other at the end of the day. So it's been a breath of fresh air to ride the ups, the downs, the turning off the OpenSea bids of, 25 ETH on an NFT, because I really did have no intention of ever selling. So I was like, there's no need for me to keep seeing these offers. You could take it to the bank. It was just, I was willing to ride this all the way down to zero because of the relationships that I've made. And and that's not it for everyone. And like I told you at the top of the show, like, I bought in because I knew what I was promised. 3 years of a conference. I've said this multiple times. They're like, no, you couldn't have just bought it for that. I was like, it literally said what we were getting. 3 years of a conference. Anything else to me is a bonus. That's just like other projects I bought into when people are like, well, this project should be doing A, B, C, and D for us. What did we buy into? When you break down what we bought into, you set yourself up for failure by expecting more than what they said they were going to do. So if you just had brought your expectations down and just believed what they said they were going to do, you wouldn't be upset right now that the floor is down, almost 100%. Like, you gotta just, and I think that's where I come in, and I feel like that's the logical lion side. Like, just look at it for what it is. Like, sometimes you don't have to dig so deep into something. It's just right there on the surface. Like, this is what you're getting. And yeah, it's nice when they do, the buyers, like the VF1 discounts on things. Like, they don't technically owe us any of that. And I just had this conversation with someone about tops where they're like, well, every VF1 holder should have got a box. Do you know how dumb that sounded to me when they said it? I said, well, listen, they can't do that. Like, they're not in control. Like, it was a benefit that we even got, the holders got to do a pre-sale before the real pre-sale.
Right.
So, like,
the specs got a box.
Yeah, like, let's not, like, it's like you give and it's like it's not enough. So it's like sometimes I do wish like I don't want the giving to stop, obviously, but sometimes I just wish like people would just realize like the amount of value that we've already gotten, it's surpassed what they promised. And like, I don't know, sometimes I have to like step away from some conversations because I don't want to get out of character on recordings, or like, to me, it's at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone that's going to find something to just like nitpick about. And I actually used to host a space with Sal called Resilient Reflection. So we would just talk about our week and just reflect on some of the things like we may have had to be resilient about. And one of the things that like just was really irking me, and at the time, and I posted a tweet about it, and I said, hey, like, if we took the operator Gary out of the situation and all of these things were being delivered, would VeeFriends have a different sentiment and place within the space? And I already knew the answer was a yes, because there's, preconceived notions about who Gary is, what he's done. People don't always agree with tactics or the way he goes about things. And, at the end of the day, that's not for us to judge. He's going to have to answer to, I believe in the man upstairs. And if he's done anything immoral, like, that's going to be on him. But that's not, in my opinion, for anyone else to judge. So you can be up in arms about it, but ultimately, the amount of deliverables that VeeFriends has just put out, it's to me, and there might be another project that I'm just not privy to, but I feel like it's one of, if not the project that's done the most in the space. And at that point, I was just so like, you're not going to keep, excuse my French, you're not going to keep shitting on this project that has onboarded probably all of you that are in these other projects that keep dismissing. So I just like would have to just take, when I felt myself getting like that passion, I know sometimes it's not going to come out right. And so I just tweet it and leave it out there. And, I got it off my chest, but I think that this project, this community, this team has done so much for this space. And like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, VeeFriends. And it's just, again, the loyalty, like, don't talk about my Uncle Gary like that. Yeah. Like, I call him Uncle Gary. Like, he doesn't know. Like, I've said it to his face before, but like, don't talk about my family like that. Like, that's how I feel,
Gary's a thing. Yeah.
That's Big Unc right there. Like, we're not going to talk about that man. You're not going to play in his face. But yeah, I just feel like finally, like, the masses are like, they don't even know what's about to hit. And it's just, I'm excited that like to be early to something and to like see it And it's like, wow, we were here. We've been up to the top of the mountain. We've been in that, kind of low area, but we still rise like a phoenix. Like it's just one of those things where it's just like you get chills when you think about like, and you have this type of conversation. Yeah, it's like literally like we can, and it's all like it's documented. Like we are documented in the history of VeeFriends. We believed like nobody should have believed, but we believed. We saw something, and no one's gonna be able to just take that away from us. And that's what I'm excited about. It's having that conviction so early, and now to see where things are now. It's like we tried to tell y'all, but y'all didn't want to listen. Y'all been calling us. I'm not gonna say the name that we were called in 2022, but that Mr. Schultz called us. But that's what y'all were calling us in this space.
Yeah.
No, like we had a vision. We saw the vision. Like at our church, our pastor always just tells us, "Are you catching the vision that I have for this program? Like what we're doing?" And I'm like, "I'm catching it. I'm catching the vision for VeeFriends. Like it's not just gonna be one dimensional. There's going to be so many ways that you can tap. And you know what I really want to see for the VeeFriends? I want to see like some more sports, some more like sports stuff. Like that's where I
like things like the fives, like characters.
Yeah, like the fives. I like the the big three, how Gary has the big three, like those type of things where it just creates more exposure. Like the fact that I was watching a big three game and to see the VeeFriends logo, people get curious like about jersey logos, like what's going on here, what is this? Right. And so those type of things, I'm just super excited for the ride. Like it's just getting started.
I love your energy, like in person right now. Like just hearing you talk about like you can't not listen to you riff right now and get excited about what's happening right in front of our eyes. Katie, thank you so much for being here. Quick couple minutes for our last segment, but I just want to give you flowers on being such a positive vibe. Like if you guys are fortunate enough to meet KT, I mean, you obviously pick up her vibe in spaces and whatever, but like you gotta just say hello. You gotta say hello IRL and experience it because it is.
And back at you too, Rob. Like you IRL, like man. When I saw your face, I was like, oh my gosh, he's more handsome in person. I gotta give this man a hug. So it's always been great to just, have encounters with you. It's always been pleasant, and I'll give you your flowers right back.
I appreciate you. All right, so it's called Micro Macro Spitfire. I'm gonna shoot a whole bunch at you. You could answer one-word questions in the macro, or excuse me, one-word answers in the macro. Or get out your microscope and elaborate on why. So here we go.
Right.
Micro, macro, Spitfire with the train. Here we go. Favorite teacher you had growing up and one reason why?
Oh, man, that's not fair. How are you going to start off with a question like that? Okay, I'm going to have to go Mr. Rohal. He was my ceramics teacher when I was in high school. The reason being is because during lunch, even if it was raining, it was hot, he'd let us in, but he just took the time to see us for who we were. Even though we weren't technically supposed to be in his ceramics class, he still allowed and signed for having extra students to be in his class, and we got to learn a cool, hobby that he loved, which I appreciated him, and we started a club and everything, so we got to have our own picture in the yearbook, so we had ceramics club. So yeah, Mr. Rohal definitely takes the cake.
What was your favorite IP as a kid?
Oh man, not gonna lie, Sesame Street. My mom was she actually just told this story when we did another birthday dinner for myself, and she was telling the group how she knew we weren't going to be able to afford Disney and all that stuff, so she knew she wanted something that was educational for her kids, and she made sure Sesame Street was our thing. So her godmother knitted sheets for us, so our bedding, because they didn't have how they have now where you can go buy Moana sheets and all that stuff. So we had customized pillowcases, comforters, the whole sheet set of Sesame Street, and Ernie actually was my guy. So I had a little Ernie, and I would carry that. I was Ernie, yeah. Okay. I was that was my guy.
Let's go. Yeah, I was definitely a Grover Cookie Monster.
Yeah, Cookie Monster was my second.
Representing the blue guys. What brand or influencer or artist or team or whoever, if they came out today with a token, an NFT, would you like drop everything and run and grab it?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think any influencer sports, just because I've done it with all of those things you named. So I don't want to name anybody specifically, unless you're okay with me naming that. Or do you want me to name?
No, one that like in your dream world, like.
Yeah, no, my dream one did already come out, and
Okay.
they dropped the ball terribly.
No.
So yeah, I don't want to.
This question took a left turn hard.
Yeah. But let me just try to dig deeper. I guess I guess so.
If you want to
so
say
like
it.
so like okay, I will say like it's been a couple. So like we did. I've done the sports, so like the Mike Tyson, the LaMelo, all just, they were rugs at the end of the day. Nike, I was very promising. Like I thought Dot Swoosh was gonna be like way bigger. And don't get me wrong, I feel like they've done a lot of things correctly, but I think they've done a lot more things like not as great. So I have been able to get, exclusive shoes that were for Dot Swoosh holders only. But again, it's always like when there's always like I have to pay to be a part of it, it feels like it's not like fun. So yeah. But if I really like had to dig, and even my ducks, they had one, and they closed shop on the ducks of a feather. So it was just like all these ones that started early, it was just like I don't know if it was just too ahead of their time, to where they didn't have the structure correctly in place. But I would say if my guy like Drake, like I'm a big Drake fan. I know there's some community members that come at me for the Drake love, but I'm a Drake fan from when he was back on Degrassi, Wheelchair Jimmy. Like I'm talking Fridays, I'd be going home. We got to get home for Degrassi. Like I'm that big of, I'm an Aubrey fan. But if he had some structure to where there was like, exclusive access if you're a certain, and I've tried to pitch this to actually my best friend, she does music, like having different tiers of like membership to like whether you're doing like meet and greet. So if you own a certain NFT, every show that you attend, you're going to automatically do meet and greets. There's, they can do monthly merch boxes where they're randomly doing like that surprise and delight, that we know oh so well. Like I've been a beneficiary of surprise and delight through VeeFriends, which I think is a great touch to just randomly get, I got a gritty hat. Like Andy made sure I got a gritty hat when that dropped. So it's just like things like that. And then Daniel, he's, sent me Loyal Lobster shirts for just surprise and delight. So it's just those little things. So I think, like I said, if Drake and like the OVO brand actually like had something in place where, it's not gimmicky, it's done right, that's where I would invest into.
Noted.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out who's giving you a hard time. What do we have? Some Kendrick Lamar maxis around?
Yeah. I don't want to put them out on this pod, but they know who they are. And their name might rhyme with Schmerid, Mr. Chill himself, coming at me on the whatnot. And,
all right.
Yeah,
right.
And one might actually work at VeeFriends also,
All right,
she might be the only female that we see on the lives.
Okay.
But her Spotify Wrapped apparently did have Drake as one of the top listened to. So yeah,
all right.
If you guys are watching this, it's all love. I'm just joking with you.
Yes, we know.
They give. I've seen the comments, and yeah, I'm watching.
That's amazing. We'll start a friendly beef here.
Yeah.
What's your favorite piece of VeeFriends memorabilia?
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I really, really love my Gift Goat starter jacket. I actually won that on an auction on eBay and did a little digging on the label that came, and it definitely is a Matt Kalish jacket that came to my house.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, I was like, whoa, this like personal ad, like home address and everything, and I was like, shred this, like we do not need this information. But yeah, so it was that's got to be like I love it because it just is a good conversation starter. Every time I like wear it, everyone's always like, you think you're gifted? I was like, I know I'm gifted. Do you want to talk correct? Like, come on. So it's just a swaggy piece. Like, I don't know, when I put it on, I just feel like I walk a little different. So yeah, I love the Gift Goat jacket.
I love that color too.
Yeah, it pops. It's such a good color.
Oh yeah. That's so funny. My first Series 2 NFT was from Kalish in a giveaway. Like early, like the first couple days. Like I just randomly want to give away.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, all right, bougie hotel or hiking and camping in the woods?
I personally do like hiking camping, but I'm going to go hiking camping because I'm not really like the bougie type. Some of my friends might say that I am, but I am like the furthest thing from it compared to what I my standard of bougie. Like if you're talking glamping, like I don't want to glamp. Like we camped growing up. Like it was to the point where we have like the tent, and my brother and I were like, can we pitch the tent and sleep in the backyard? And so we would do that like every now and then, like when we were younger. So I'm definitely taking the hiking, the camping, all that stuff.
All right, let's go. Would you rather have a 2-hour group dinner experience with Gary, like let's say you and 9 other people, or a 15-minute one-on-one?
I'm with the group. I think the more the merrier. The amount of knowledge I think that he has that can permeate in a 2-hour period with a group. Why be selfish for the 15? I'm going with the group setting.
Amazing. And if he was here and he had one question he had to answer honestly, what would you ask him?
Okay, so I've been trying to get this question answered actually recently over the like winter kind of off season for the WNBA. I would want to know what intrigued him to actually be an investor in the new group, the new league called Unrivaled. So he's one of the investors listed on the docket. So that would be my question, like what was the reason behind actually wanting to invest in this startup league? Because it's an unknown waters for all the investors, because it is a brand new league that's basically going to help support financially these WNBA players that don't want to technically go overseas to play basketball to keep their income up, but they're able to stay stateside. And I think it came at such a great time given the unfortunate circumstances of Brittany Griner and, her situation when she was over in Russia. So
yeah,
it's a great league. It was fun to watch, but when I saw it, I'm like, yo. And then it's like follow up to that would be like any benefits that you can pass on to courtside cat seat holders to go to Miami to watch some of these games.
That's interesting. I've heard of it. I've heard of Unrivaled. I just didn't know his connection.
Yeah, so I don't know if AJ also, but I know Gary's name was on the list that I saw.
Amazing. You're the best. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure and delight. I'll link up your handles, but give KT a follow, guys. I know there's a lot of new people in here that are very card collectible heavy that you may have not hit the radar, but man, such a good person to know. Appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.
Man, I appreciate this. Thank you. I know it was long overdue. Like I said, honored to even be on the radar to come on to this show. So I appreciate you. And if you guys aren't following Rob, make sure you guys follow him because he is one of the most humbled individuals I've ever met. Dedicated, and he's human just like we are, but he shows up. And I think that's very big in a world where, not everyone's consistent all the time. I would say you're pretty consistent, and I know we all have our times where we need to take those breaks, but when you come back, it's like you never left. You pick up right where you left off. And like I said, it's been a breath of fresh air to be on the GM spaces and just keep it going. And I just hope you stay encouraged, especially, in the times that we're in. So keep the good fight going, my brother.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. You're the best. Have the best night.
Bye-bye.